So, Coté, in my short career, I've only ever worked for pretty big companies. By pretty big, I mean IBM and VMware. And then I just started working at Datadog, which is really exciting to me anyway.
You haven't worked at the ugly big companies yet? There's so much in store for you.
The ugly big companies? What do you mean by that?
Well, you've worked at the pretty big companies, and now it's the ugly big.
That's okay. So you derailed me.
Impossible.
Everything I know about startups is just stuff I've kind of heard or inferred just by maybe having friends who work there. And so I don't completely understand. Here's what I think I know, which I deliberately didn't look up before this podcast so I could get it drastically wrong and you can straighten me out. But here's what I think. So I think somebody has an idea for a new piece of tech, like some sort of innovative idea. And then they're like, okay, with this piece of tech, somebody give me money because I have an idea of a cool thing to make.
Yeah.
But that's step one. But what's interesting to me about step one as an outsider is that you don't have to have an idea about how that cool tech is going to make money. You just have to have cool tech that's never been heard of before.
Sure.
Okay. And then maybe step two, you might open source it depending on your strategy.
Oh,
right. Okay. Then maybe we're just going to move on and discuss it later. Then you do lots of trial and error to figure out how to make this cool piece of tech profitable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you
these
keep
are
making
possibilities.
Okay. And if you keep making it's at least seem profitable, it doesn't have to be profitable, then people will keep giving you money. And then eventually it is profitable and everyone makes money. The goal, I think, is either to IPO or to sell your company.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. You know, when I've worked in startups and like worked with them, I mean, I think you covered all but one. Well, the failure is always an option. They don't teach you that. So that's an outcome. But you covered all but one of the possible strategies, which is just like they would pejoratively call it a lifestyle business, or as the rest of the world would say, pretty good living. Right, is what you want to have there. But yeah, I think my model of a startup is you either enter. We've got some great killer thing that's obviously going to make a lot of money. That's good, right? Like whatever. Or we've got this team of people that has a lot of potential and they do interesting stuff, and we trust that they will make a lot of money, right? And so like, I'm sure they got some shit.
I didn't know you could get money based on personality alone.
Right. That's what they call a serial entrepreneur or a real charmer. Right. And then you've got the third thing, which I think, is what you would assume most startups were. And I don't know what the pie chart would look like, but it's kind of like you were saying is we've identified a way to solve a problem that exists that one can sell a lot of, and maybe not even sell a lot of, but that will create a lot of value in this corporate entity that we have, that will create an exit event that the people who gave us money here will be able to get anywhere from like 10 to 50 like X return on their revenue. And whatever happens out of that is someone else's problem. Right after that is someone else's problem, and so the
goal isn't necessarily to IPO or to sell. Well, it's an exit event.
Yeah, and an IPO could be an exit. Being acquired could be an exit. Folded into something else could be an exit. There's nefarious things where you could do. I forget what you call it. You buy non-public equity from the existing employees and sell it to like SoftBank or something, and so there's all these shiftings of money around. Which could be totally legit or whatever. But yeah, you want to, especially when you're early on in a startup, you need to have your eyes on like possible exits, which sounds kind of bad. But yeah, I think there was a great talk 3 years, maybe 2 years ago at Monktoberfest from, oh man, I always forget his last name, but from Anil, who is a VC at a London firm. And it was basically like, here's the problem with investing in open source. And it was he laid out what we just said right away. He was like, I need a big return on my investment.
Mm-hmm.
And so there you go.
So I would like to introduce our guest who is working at an early stage startup. And I have an important question. So Sarah Christoff, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And yeah, is the startup you work at based around your personality alone? Is that the profitable part of Adara?
Luckily, no. Luckily, we have a lot of more stable personalities running the show. I don't know what we'd be doing with that money. But yeah, no, I work at a startup. I think we're 17 people right now, so it's still very.
Heck yeah. What is the innovation that the startup you work for is built around?
Yeah. So we're building or have built a Rust-based type 1 hypervisor, and it's meant to run with containerized workloads. So, everyone's kind of like breaking out of containers aren't secure, or like the old Jesse Frazell talk, which is like containers aren't real. So what we're doing is now providing a tried and true isolation mechanism around those containerized workloads so that you don't have to worry about people bumping into each other and multi-tenant setups and that type of thing.
So containers are isolated with your product or solution or tech or whatever.
Yeah.
Containers are isolated at the kernel level.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, cool. So one thing I don't understand about, I totally guessed at what the steps were, but I don't understand how that correlates to like Series A, Series B, etc. Can you explain that to me?
So let me rephrase it back to you. You don't understand how the innovation correlates back to the fundraising?
Maybe I don't understand yeah, like the steps of like, here's how you get from first coming up with the kernel of an idea to selling or IPOing.
Yeah.
What are the series in between? That's a stage of fundraising. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, but not Adara related, but only like Sarah's failure zone related, which is a long time ago. I'm going to say it like that. A good friend and I tried to do the startup thing, right? We thought we had like a killer idea. We had case studies. We were able to be like, oh yeah, this makes so much money. Look at other people's making money off of this. Like we could do that. And we went to fundraise, and because we only had like kind of a pie in the sky, this is what it should be kind of vibe, that would be pre-seed. Basically means like they thought that we were really cute and affable and like a good founders, so they'll give us like $500K to really like POC our product. Back in 2021.
Is that the person where the good personality comes in?
Yeah. Well, we didn't get any pre-seed, so that's where the personality on both of our parts.
You're saying normally that's where the personality would come in.
If you know how I can make $500K off of this personality, let me know. So it was a bad time. It's always a bad time to fundraise, except unless in like COVID times, that was like peak fundraising time. But we were not able to get pre-seed or seed or anything, but you start pre-seed. That's mostly based off of vibes. All of this is based off of founder vibes. And if you're like, you have charm and charisma, and you've done, what's that, Burning Man? A lot of VCs would tell me that they'd get more like an influx of people coming to them after Burning Man. And I'd be like, never been. So so you start with pre-seed. Seed means you're now like really building out that idea, and like maybe you're like doing like POCs with customers and like finding that product market fit. And then Series A through Z is mostly like you just getting more money because they want to keep investing in you, because then they get bigger share of the pie type of thing. So like you saw ChainGuard just got like $356 million in their Series D. And I don't even know what that means. Like, it just kind of makes money feel like not real. How do you even get that much money,
Oh yeah. Money's not felt real in tech for me, I think, since my second in tech. But then like you said, A through Z, and I know you're kind of exaggerating, but at what point are investors like, you know what, we don't want to do another round of funding. We want our money back.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a VC. What I assume is happening is like they are getting their money back because every time they fundraise and they're part of that next round, they get a bigger share of the pie of that ultimate valuation, right? So like, what is Chain Guard valued at? They're just the top of mind because I looked at their valuation. I was actually asking like, how do you transfer $356 million? Have you ever thought about that? Like, how do banks do that? And why is it when I transfer money, there's fees? Like, what are the fees on $356 million? I bet they get it for free. But basically, they get that percentage of that fake valuation, because valuations are also, from my understanding, kind of based off of vibes. It's like, yeah, you feel like you're like 3.5 billion. I hope you in the comments, this is gonna be like, this girl has no fucking clue.
And they'll be talking about me.
They'll be like, but this is just from my experience of like trying to fail and fundraise. Fail and fundraise that would be such a good name for a podcast, actually.
No winners on this pod.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be a great podcast. Like all of your startup failures. I want to hear your story. Yeah. I'm in. So basically, you are an employee at a startup, and I decided to ask you a lot of information about how startups work.
And I was like, I can only tell you based off of when I fundraised and like it went really badly. Like that's the story I could tell you, not based off of Videra's fundraising. That's all them, and they did it right, you know. But I mean, when we were fundraising, it was interesting.
Will you briefly like introduce yourself and talk about who you are and what you do and all those things?
That's an important tidbit. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Sarah Christoff. I am a software engineer at Adera. Like I said, we are a Rust-based hypervisor company focusing in Kubernetes and container space. I'm also part of like CNCF stuff. You might have seen me on Porter or Tag App Delivery or other things that I've done, I'm sure that I know off the top of my head. And my free times, I try to run triathlons really poorly. So,
do you complete them?
Well, yeah, technically,
then yeah, you win.
You win. I do get the medal. The best thing about doing like endurance sports like that is afterwards, any food tastes really good. Like you could give me like a Subway sandwich, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, this is so artisanal and like."
I wouldn't have guessed that. Have you tested that? Have you tried really bad things just to make sure your theory is correct?
I used to eat 7-Eleven pizza.
Ooh. Is that a thick crust or a thin crust? What's
in like? One fell swoop, you undid all of the good health that
you're doing so great. Yeah. No, I would do like long bike days, and then the closest thing on the way home was 7-Eleven, and I would just be like, it didn't matter if it was sitting out. I don't care. I would have eaten cardboard if you put mozzarella sauce on it.
I think you did, actually.
Everyone's mad in Italian now. Yeah.
But do they have you been to a Subway recently?
No, there was one at KubeCon, like across from the vendor hall, and I kept like eyeing it, and I was like, I don't have the desperation to like go there. Have you?
Because they have them here. I live in the Netherlands, and they have them here, but they don't sell the meatball sub, which seems like the reason you go to Subway is to get the meatball sub. It's delicious, but they don't sell them here. So I was wondering if back in the States, if they still sell them. Maybe the Subway just had a meatball problem, and they're like, we're out. No more of these stupid subs. Like we don't want to live that crisis.
In the Netherlands, are you guys not big meatballers or?
Oh no, they love meatballs here.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not meatballs with what would you say, marinara or red sauce?
I said mozzarella sauce. Please do not make me. I was going for marinara, and it just came out.
Mozzarella fondue.
I think you're onto something. First, we got this great podcast idea, and now we have a good sauce to make. We're on a roll.
I think if we could engineer this all together, Whitney. We need to have a startup, and everyone likes mozzarella, everyone likes sauce. What if we brought these two things together and look at our charming founders here?
Yeah.
Right. All we need is we're only looking for like 500,000 to 700,000. Is this pre or post? I don't know, but I want to talk to you about mozzarella sauce.
We don't we don't need PMF. We are the PMF. I'm making this for me. Give me money to make a product I want. Thanks.
Yes, yeah. There's not a market this doesn't pour on top of, I think is what we have going.
We also just said we
Thanks for your consideration.
7-Eleven pizza. So we kind of destroyed our credibility.
Yeah.
I only took the blame for that I will eat 7-Eleven pizza. I don't think I've eaten anything worse than 7-Eleven pizza. And like it tasted so good after the bike ride that I ate it. I wanted to say sober, but it was sober after the bike ride too, but it was high on life or whatever you want to call it. But I ate it post like a normal day and I was like, this is horrible. Like, this is really bad. Yeah.
How did you get into doing triathlons?
That's a really interesting story. So I had a gym teacher in high school, and I remember her doing these crazy endurance sports, even when pregnant. And I had like a car accident, got rear-ended, and I shifted discs in my back, and they were going to do surgery on my spine. And I was like, before you do surgery on my spine, I'm going to do some like crazy stuff. And I was like, I'm going to do a triathlon because that is what that gym teacher did. Got into it, spent all the money, started doing races, all the stuff. And like about like, I don't know, 6 months into my training, before like I'm training for my half Ironman, I realized that gym teacher was into like Tough Mudders and not triathlons at all. And I just got the wrong sport. But I'm good at being, and we always say we're bad at 3 sports at once. And I am very good at being bad at 3 things at once. So, and it's like a total body workout, just like in a, kind of destructive way.
So you were told you need surgery and you're like, no, I'm going to do exercise instead. And then you never needed surgery.
Well, I did end up needing surgery, which is a different one. So I ended up doing like 6 months of like strength and core stuff. So basically, if you work out your core a bunch and your injuries aren't horrid, but they are bad, your core can kind of stabilize your spine because it wraps around, right? So I ended up doing a lot of that, and that helped a lot. So I know like if I do like 6 months and I stop working out, like I start getting sciatica in my legs, and so I'll have trouble walking. But 1 month before my first half Ironman, I was walking into my house with a coffee up a stair, one stair, and my ankle flipped inwards. And I was like, I've always had like very like flexy, like fun ankles.
That's not fun though.
I didn't know ankles could be fun until right now.
Yeah, everyone's like, man, I want fun ankles. And I was like, so I kind of like walked it off, didn't think much of it. And then my ankles, like, and this would happen because I was a soccer player, so I've always had like hypermobile ankles. And it swelled. I like first what's it called, sprained ankle in my entire life, and that ankle sprain tore a ligament in my leg, so I had to get surgery on that ligament. So did end up needing surgery, just not the one I thought I'd get.
So is it normal in your own self-assessment of your personality to be like, all right, I'm just going to go work out for 6 months and make myself like a meat cast around my spine? Like that's a pretty big commitment. And then for the rest of your life, like have you also just like, mastered woodworking over one summer because you set your mind to it, or was that an abnormal thing where you're just like, I'm going to do this major thing and just figure it out?
I mean, when you place it like that, like, yeah, you see a trend. Okay. You feel a little tacked. I do this with like businesses a lot on accident. So failed VC or failed startup. Great job. Businesses that actually did take off the ground and didn't immediately crash and burn was I started a dog rescue, and we saved about like 12 to 15 dogs. It was called Boop. Super great branding and marketing, if I do say so myself. And we focused all on like positive reinforcement and like finding like homes and doing like very slow placements and stuff like that. So that was in Colorado, and we would drive to Texas and like get a caravan of people to drive to Texas to take dogs out of the shelters and drive them back. Super sick time. And then before that, I started a gamer bar in Tempe, Arizona when I was 18, like a normal 18-year-old,
Yeah. So you like you like ambitious projects.
Yeah, I'm an ambitious project, you know?
How about okay now one that's good. That one thing that I one of the many things I like about Whitney is she's really good at saying no in order to have a sane life. And like so are you good at saying no to ambitious projects, or are you like, I don't know why I'm driving to Texas to pick up dogs, I'm a cat person, like or you know, do you end up falling into these things, or do you have like a list of like, there's my no list, all these crazy things that I just definitely was not going to do?
I don't know if I have a no list. Life just kind of happens and then I roll with it. And I'm kind of like a choo-choo train, just to go like full speed ahead. Like I told myself I wasn't going to move to Europe until I was like 35 when my dogs were older and had gone. And then I'm going to the Netherlands, next week on Wednesday to get my residence permit. So what
Really?
up?
Wow. How did that come about?
This podcast is not software defined. It's just like, what we found Sarah and like, what is happening?
We're going to follow the train tracks that someone's laid for.
So as all good stories happen, I met a boy and he ended up being very European. And he's very popular on Hacker News. If I do say so myself, I'm very popular on Hacker News is what I should say. But anyways, long story short, it's hard to get Europeans into America right now. It's easier for Americans to go to Europe. And so we did some research, found out about the DAFT process, which is the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty. Didn't know Dutch and America were friends, or Holland and America were friends. I didn't know about this. And super easy to do. When I say super easy, I mean like, you know, if you have 6 months and a bunch of money you want to burn, you can start up a business in the Netherlands and they'll give you a work visa and you just kind of do your little jump.
That's true. You can also, when you move, I don't know if they've told you this, but if you've got like a business started up, you can go to the equivalent of Costco's over here, which they still limit to only people who have like a business, right?
What?
And you can anyone can start a business, which I'm putting in air quotes. But then you can go to the Macros or the Horesias. I forget how you say it, but it's where you can actually go get more than like 200 grams of any food you want. Like it's fantastic. So once you get here, you should sign up for that. And they have gas that's a little bit cheaper, just like a Costco. Which would be great fun for you.
Well, I'm dropping the American car stuff, okay? You know,
Sure.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But I will take the other business advantages.
You should get one of the little tiny cars that people drive around here. That's you can drive on the bike lanes, or just get a bike. That's probably what you bring your triathlon bike, right?
I'm in Berlin right now, and they have the little tiny box cars. I'm like,
yeah. They're basically like mopeds that have a shell on them, I think.
Exactly, which I kind of want. I got my motorcycles license too, so that I can go over and, you know, be unsafe over there. So you're welcome. See you on the road.
Do you know how to use time differently than I do? You just keep adding another thing that you've done.
I was like, I have
another hobby you
time on my phone. So I was like, I do use 24-hour time.
Tell me
I just have like no chill. I mean, I feel like I have a lot of chill. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. But I don't know, like as always, life just kind of happens and then I end up just going with it. So, you know, I blame the European for my move to Europe. It's not me. Okay,
Speaking of, you were talking about being popular. You're both popular in Hacker News. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so basically, he runs a project that is a peer-to-peer container registry mirror. I'm going to butcher that. You can just
When
go
you say
read it.
project, you mean open source project?
It is an open source project, and it's his open source. Open source we hear is in love. That's cringe. Cut that out. But yeah, so basically what happened was he had this open source project and Microsoft took an interest in it. They started kind of futzing around with him saying, you know, let's meet, let's like be best friends. Like, you know, maybe something can come of this. And then they kind of ghost, which is like totally normal. Like that's just what happened. And turns out, lo and behold, like people are starting to come up to him saying like, what's this like peer D thing? Have you heard of it? And he's like, nah, it's like not my vibe. And turns out like it has a bunch of files and function signatures and like code comments and like tests that have like his project's name in it. And he's like, wow, these look like really familiar. It's like, I wrote these. She did.
Oh.
So the blog that blew up on Hacker News was basically him saying like, I got forked by Microsoft and it really hurt my feelings. Which is true. It does suck to kind of like try to go up against this like behemoth of a company when you are just one small person and you're trying to kind of take this open source project off the ground. And I think a lot of people have been in that situation, not against Microsoft, but any large corporation where you're an open source maintainer of one and you're trying to get help from these large companies and they kind of just tell you they don't have time or money or resources when they're multi-billion-dollar corporations.
And so they forked it and now they made a second open source project that was built from his project?
Yeah, so they basically took it's not a hard fork. We could say it's like a soft fork. They took a bunch of like...
Not very effective, I imagine. Sorry. I'm just imagining a soft fork, a literal one.
Just like mush.
Trying to stab some food with it, yeah.
What we call spoons, okay? That's a bad joke. And so, yeah, so a bunch of, the code, like actual complete like functions and everything were copied over. But there was an attribution at the like bottom of the README. It was like, thank you for your help with, your inspiration. But at the end of the day, like the stuff that they were doing on that project could have perhaps, from an unbiased third party that I am, be contributed to the actual project they copied the code from. So it just kind of, it isn't what they did was like completely illegal, but it was more that it just shows the problem in the open source space where companies, large companies specifically, continue to not do what's best for the community and give back to the community.
So the best thing they could have done was, instead of forking it, to contribute to it. And is that true? Even though they would have maybe bent it away from his vision into whatever they wanted?
I don't even think, it's not, the contribution is welcome, right? Having anyone kind of like come to meetings and say, this is the feature set I want, is a lot different than just taking it and bending it into your own vision, right? It's a collaborative thing. So I think what I read in some of the comments from Microsoft was, in those meetings, they had feature sets they had requested, which were out of scope at the time. And my kind of question, being an open source maintainer there, is, well, were you contributing resources to these feature sets you were doing?
Yeah.
Because if you're like, I want this like huge feature, well, I might want it too, but like I'm just one girl. So
So what motivates them to fork it and start their own rather than contributing? What?
I think a part of it is control. Not to throw any corporation under the bus, but it's easier to not go through the collaboration. It's faster to not go through the collaboration piece, right? The other thing is, I would just say control, really. I don't think it's better for them long term to like try and maintain their own open source project, right? If they want peer to take off, they also have to contribute more and more resources into the community and to advocate for the project, that type of thing. But it does cost money and time to like work with an outside source. And a lot of companies will also say that a project maintained by one maintainer is like a risky project to kind of take on. I think that...
But then it's not maintained by one maintainer anymore if you take it on and add maintainers.
Yeah, exactly. Every project was one maintainer at one point. I think it's more risky for you to take it on and hope that you will succeed as a company long enough to like really have this project take off. Like you're basically saying like, it's not worth collaborating with you because I have money and so I think I can spend that money better. What really is better is like a diverse set of people coming together, kind of volunteering, but also getting paid. We would like to get paid in open source, please. And taking this and moving that passion and payment and getting the project off the ground. What we're seeing more and more, what I'm seeing too and hearing is, oh, well, this project looks dead. It's one maintainer, it's two maintainers, it's one company. It's always an excuse for someone to start their own similar project because they want control, because they don't have trust.
Okay. And so you're partnered wrote an article about it, and then now it's blowing up on Hacker News.
Yeah.
And so now what? Like the community's outraged that Microsoft forked an open source project.
Right. Now what is the question? I think that's the hardest part. There was a call to action at the bottom saying, hey, like GitHub sponsors are open. But that only goes so far. I think the other thing is to take this and see the adoptions and go to the adopters and get use cases and that type of stuff. So we'll see what he does with that. I'm hoping that he finds his spot in the world with his project where he can keep it his passion, but also make money off of it somehow. And we'll see. But I mean, it does kind of show a huge problem in the community. And I think I went to Monkey Gras recently. What was it? 3 weeks ago?
Yeah,
there was a big like open source is dead vibe, which we've had for like 3 years, right? Which is companies aren't contributing. There are killing OSPOs left and right. How do we keep open source alive based off of volunteerism when it's all just like people in their 30s and 40s who are burnt out and, tired, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think is not open source? Like what is closed source nowadays?
I don't know. I keep working at companies and like everything is, that's like the most irritating bit. Like you work at companies. Oh, I worked at a company. Broad strokes here, because everything's illegal in my head based off of other podcasts that I've done where I just spout stuff that I shouldn't. I worked at a company once where I ran an open source project and I was paid to do that. And the open source project was ran by only me, even though it was widely used at that one company. And that one company was doing very good financially, I'll tell you what. And I had a meeting with a team and I said, please, other team in a different organization of this company, help me, sole maintainer. And they went, well, we don't have time. And if you go away, then we will just fork it. I went, this doesn't even make sense anymore. You're going to fork your own, be a company for a second. I'm a company. I paid multiple someones to create this project. Then I might have done something with it where it's not mine anymore, but it is still technically mine. I'm the only person funding it. And now another organization in my company is going to fork that project of which I already paid for. Why do we exist? Like,
no, I don't know game theory that well, but that seems like a kind of weird prisoner's dilemma, or more simply put, a game of chicken, where they're like, what you're doing is important and we need it, but we're going to gamble that you'll suck it up and just like, you'll not leave. And that, therefore, we don't have to reallocate what our priority list is for doing things. Which I mean, I walk through it like that because it is you're kind of I mean, to make it a little out loud, so to speak. I think one of the sentiments you're expressing about open source is like there's nothing about doing open source that means you don't get paid. Right? Like they're just because they're not transacting a closed thing doesn't mean you're not transacting. And it seems like there's the kind of like with that team or in that situation, there's a disconnect of like, you have to pay for this. You pay for it with money or you pay for it with time or whatever, but like, it's not free. And I don't know, that seems like one of those impossibly historically to explain to people if they don't intuitively get it. It seems weird that this valuable thing is worth paying for in some way. It's
crazy to think about that. Like maybe I'm not just like, it's like takes me 5 minutes to patch a CVE. And if anyone in their right mind has ever gone through like Go dependency hell, which I have, and I do not, anytime any project that relies on Helm, I love Helm, great job, Matty B, still love Matt Butcher, ride or die. But like, if you've gone through like Go dependency hell for updates, you know, I've been in it for hours. I'm in it right now. Like, this takes time. I'm not just like patching the most recent Docker like CVE and like click a button and GitHub smiles and there's confetti. Like, this isn't how this works. It would be cool.
You get some
it's
free
not.
7-Eleven pizza just pops right out of your CD drive.
And so do you think when you start your mozzarella sauce company, like is that gonna be open source from the beginning, or would you do it like as closed source, or would you do the thing where it's not either because it's like a cloud-based service, so like that doesn't come up? If like
It's
what
based
is
off of vibes?
what's like your intuition for like if you're starting off a software thing, are you just like, as you say, ride or die with open source, or are you like, I'm gonna choose wisely which rides I want to die on?
I think now that I'm grown, I'm tall, 5'8". But like, I think what I've learned from like my trials in open source is that companies expect you to act like a company when you're a person. And it's hard to act like a company when you have morals. So like in the team trying to fork my project, of which the company paid for, Vibe, they're acting as a company against me, just like a person who's like, can you just like help? They're like, no.
Yeah.
So if I'm creating my mozzarella sauce company, to tie it back, the question I would ask you is like, do I want to like make money, or do I want to have morals? And that's kind of like how you answer the question.
That's like capitalism in a nutshell, that question.
This entire podcast, the share zone, like memes have been in the back of my head. It was like, oh no, your company went bankrupt. I hope you like stop spending it on avocado toast, or like something like that. Like this, I don't know. Don't look it up on Blue Sky. You'll waste too much of your time looking at the share zone.
Well, how have you gotten a sense of how that not that sentiment, but like that situation is different, if at all, in like Europe? Is there a slightly different perspective on that kind of thing in your exposure so far?
I feel like you would have a better vibe off of this. I like, actually in KubeCon EU, it was kind of refreshing to hear like, we have play money to just go play with open source projects. And I was like, what is that? I haven't heard that in years.
We? Yeah.
Who are you?
Who said that? Yeah.
People kept coming up to the Porter booth and being like, yeah, I don't have like money. They're like, I was like, you can't pay me. I'm a CLCF project, but like you could go buy me a beer. But yeah, no.
And then pay me.
Give me the sauce. Give me a pizza. But yeah, it's refreshing to hear that's coming back, because in the States, it's been very much like cut. We don't have money for anything. And somehow we're losing the money that we have already. So I think it's better-ish, but I'm also learning more about how small the open source scene is here, and how companies are kind of exploding over here too. There's a big push I'm seeing of like Europe investing in Europe, which I think is cute, because like America has its all like American-made thing, and you put the little flag on it, and you're like, okay, cool, means it's gonna fall apart. So.
Yeah, there is like I think one joke I have in my head all the time is when I hear the phrase like sovereign cloud, mysteriously it's only people outside of America who care about sovereign cloud, which is really what they're saying is not America cloud, right? Like whereas if you're in America, you just think cloud because that's where it is. I mean, mostly, right? So you don't have this idea of sovereignty, which is it gets to the point of like. Europe wanting more Europe tech, as it were. Which, yeah, I mean, I think to answer my own question, thank you for asking. Like, I think I don't know. I always hesitate, even though I've been here for a while, to like comment on the European mindset. But there's this in tech over here. There's this paradox of like people don't change that much in Europe. Like, I kind of think. After 2,000 years, they're like, yeah, that's our time to start withdrawing money from the 401k now instead of putting it in. Like we figured it out. So there's kind of this like things don't change monumentally too much. But I think that also means that once you get something set up, it's hard to shut it down. Mm-hmm. So if you have like we spend this amount of money, this play money on open source stuff, no one really questions why you still do it. And you just keep doing it. I don't know, but it does mean that like a lot of the a lot of the programs don't come and go like they do in the States based on the economy or whatever. And then also, as you're pointing out, people like open source here, corporate wise, in a different way. They don't only think of it as free. They think of it as like a strategic option or a value to like have basically to not be beholden to an American company.
Right.
I think they still have a lot of thoughts about Microsoft 1998, and
As we all
hasn't
do.
quite gotten out of the system.
Do you think it's fair to say that people who fork or companies who fork an open source project underestimates what it takes to maintain and grow that project? Like that's part of why they think forking is a good idea.
The vibe of getting me canceled on the internet, if I haven't done it already. Yes, and I took an improv class once. Can you tell? Yes, and there was, bringing it back to Monkey Graw, there was a dude on stage who gave a talk, and it was my favorite talk. And I wish the talks were published so I could remember the name of the talk, but it was like, he did best talk. And his talk was basically like, okay, so we've created a system of which when companies misbehave against open source, we can like slap them on the wrist. We can't really do anything lawyery because we're poor open source maintainers. Like, am I gonna lawyer up and like fist fight Microsoft? No, I'm just a girl. I can't do that. So they can kind of do whatever they want, and the ramifications are it's going to be kind of, what's it called when you get like schmutz on your face, but it's like lawyery. It's kind of like, it looks bad press wise, right? Like
Egg on your face.
Egg on their face, yeah. Schmutz, we're schmutzing their faces. Coming out, but so for like Philip's blog, it looks bad for Microsoft for the 2 days it's on the front page of Hacker News, and everyone kind of like it riles their feathers. But after 2 days, well, he's still in the situation where his code was copied, and people are coming to his project maybe more, but the other project still exists, and Microsoft still benefits from that code, tens of thousands of dollars perhaps. I don't know. I don't work there. So the problem, to bring it back to this talk, the talk was, we have these misbehavings and there are no boundaries on these companies. And to take it to like the HashiCorp thing, as a former employee of HashiCorp, people really underestimated the amount of people that run Terraform. Terraform was so large when I joined that it was commonly joked that they were their own company. It was like 20 people or something insane. And like there was like kind of like the middle children, which is Consul, Vault Nomad, that ran the agent code base. And then there was kind of the forgotten children. I still love Packer and Vagrant, that they are the forgotten children. Still use Packer today. Everyone still use Packer. And like, there's probably one person working on Packer right now. That person deserves a lot of love. So Terraform was huge, and it was a huge investment for Hashi. And they basically had no way to stop other companies from creating their own spin-off and taking away from Terraform itself. You could say, well, like Hashi is a huge company, they make a ton of money, and they got to IPO and they got to, tank their own stock price. Sure, cool, great. But like now take that into like a smaller perspective of what if it wasn't a huge company and it is just one person? So this keeps happening, and there needs to be, what's it called? Punishment? No, like there needs to be something. When you do something bad, you get a thing that happens.
Reprimanded.
There's another
repercussions.
Repercussions. Yes, there's repercussions for bad actors in the community. We don't have those right now.
You get an X. If you get 3 X's, you're out.
It's going to be on your permanent record.
Yeah. But still, I mean, it's better than nothing, or it's something. Or at least if you come near this foundation with your whatever, you have a record.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, there just has to be, I don't know if it's licenses. I feel like licenses are just like, don't do it. It's like a sign on a fence that I'm going to jump. It's like, don't do it.
What's the point where the bad record might affect the company? Like when they're trying to hire maintainers and maintainers are like, nope, I see your record.
We have companies like that.
When they're trying to contribute, and yeah.
right?
And the
Like,
projects are, yeah.
oh, sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out like what's the point where that record would hit the community in a way that they would have any real repercussions.
I don't know.
I think the only historic examples are in the direction that is not what you would want. where the smaller, you know, with like with Redis and Valkey, right? Where the smaller entity sort of gets the negative end of the stick. There's a bad end of the stick, whereas the bigger entity sort of, as you were saying, like, you know, they're so big that they can last longer and they can just absorb whatever. It's just like, you know, throwing a pebble at like a Zeppelin. It's just not really going to do anything. I mean, the only, I mean, this is as far back as there's probably newer ones, but like long ago in the 2000s, when Oracle bought Sun, there was a continuous build system called Hudson at the time, and they were going to close source it, or I don't even know what they were going to do. And then hence was born Jenkins, which forked from it. And I don't think Hudson exists anymore, so Oracle lost, basically. But like, even when Red Hat like did license stuff recently, I remember that was like a crazy 2 weeks 3 years ago, and now nothing, right? Like, and on and on and on. So like, I don't really know if the people who are making these marks, they use like dry erase board markers or something. They don't really stay.
I mean, like face tattoos.
Yeah. So that's what really brought up the mood here with the dry erase.
Yeah. So what motivates you to maintain your open source project? Because it's not your day job, right?
No, it's not my day job.
First of all, tell us about your open source project.
Well, this is a great time to introduce burnout and open source burnout. I will, of course, talk about Porter, though. And so Porter is a tool that basically you specify your CI/CD pipeline, everything your app needs to run, so like secrets or environment variables. Like basically you set the state of your world in yet another YAML file. Which I've met the Mr. YAML recently. Like he exists. It's a guy. I was very excited.
Wow.
And he has shirts. YAML has shirts. Have you ever thought about? Sorry, side tangent.
Yeah, I would like a YAML shirt, please.
Mr. YAML, please. I'm sure he's a name, but. So Porter allows you to
his name is yet another markup language.
Yet another mark. Oh my God.
His name's Mark.
Don't make sense now. So yeah, Porter lets you define kind of like a world in a YAML file. We kind of take that and we make it into a container. That way it is baked into that image. You can store it in any registry or repository that you'd like. Then it is version controlled. And basically when you're ready to run your app and run that deployment, you just do the Porter run and it does it all. So it's kind of a simple way to say like, basically DevOps teams, if those are still real, I don't know anymore, SRE, platform engineering teams, when they have all these like kind of like amalgamous tools that are kind of stitched together with scripts, not strips, it's hard to kind of make sure that those pipelines all work together flawlessly, especially when you have different teams. So maybe you have like a web app team and they have different tools that they use versus like a backend team. And so what it does is it just makes an artifact of these pipelines so you're able to deploy your app reproducibly quickly.
That's super cool. Is it widely used?
Maybe.
It's hard to know, right? Yeah.
It's widely used inside of Microsoft. Taking it back home to my MVPs there. And it's used a lot in consulting companies and weird AI companies. It was used a lot in like COVID times because basically what happened is there's these researchers that had environments that they need to kind of pass in data and get like output out. And those environments had to be very constrained. We need to make sure it was the same box for passing data in and getting the same data out over and over again. So Porter got really big with like data researchers and stuff like that, which is weird for me to think about because I've never thought about data researchers using like basically containers, right?
So I want to try to draw. I want to try to draw like a forking analogy here, which is I think you've been around, Whitney. Sorry for interrupting you there, but I think you've been around when I've complained about like, why don't we just like fix the internet instead of making another networking layer on top of it? And so like, there's this general pattern of like, I don't like the way this thing down here works, and I'm not going to fix that, or it can't be fixed. So now I'm going to add a layer on top of it, like packaging things, right? Like, or like networking, like, DNS seems like it's a problem all the time. Maybe we should fix that, right? But no, we're not going to fix it. And so like, there is a type of forking that's like, we went over kind of like a malicious, unhelpful type, where it's like, I don't want to become part of that community for whatever reason, so I'm going to fork it. Now, and then there's something with layering where, when is it a good idea to layer versus like, you should really just write an RFC or something? Like when do you make the cut of like, I should layer on this instead of fixing the thing that I'm fixing by layering it?
I don't think you make the decision. I think your, corporate overlord does it for you. Like for Porter, I always just say it's kind of like, it's like your dumpster for like all of your DevOps tools that you've collected, which is like, I get to say that because it's my project. It's kind of like I have an older sister. So like I'm able to like, make fun of my older sister, but if anyone else does, I'll kick their butts. So, Porter is like literally, let's just take like all of the cruft that you've made over the years. Large companies love making cruft. And then we'll just wrap it and we make it into an artifact. And like, we did it. Like now it's reproducible and pretty controlled.
And I think to Coté's point, all those different tools, to fix it at that layer, you would have to get all the people involved with all those different tools to work together.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a good layering that's like aggregating. I don't know the right word, but it's just like we have, there's probably 3 or more, if not even 2 or more things that need to be coordinated together. And so we should really add a layer on top of it instead of going and fixing those things or merging them together, which, makes sense.
Yeah, and like, will you have to deal with that? No, because you're gonna find another job in like 2 years, so it's fine. But that person's gonna have to deal with it, and they'll add another layer to the cake. It's kind of like the more layers you get, and like the lasagna, like juicier it gets, right? So you make it sound good, right?
The more mozzarella sauce you have in between each one.
You can tell when Sarah works here, right?
I think we're ready for Series B now. We've just upped the valuation of the company, and we realized that you can layer and put mozzarella sauce in between.
Yeah.
It's not just one. You need multiple.
Stacking 7-Eleven pizzas.
With mozzarella sauce.
With mozzarella sauce. What a interesting visual. You do bring up a good point, Whitney, which is like when you, and this kind of, we can tie this back to startups. A lot of times when I was fundraising, they'd be like, well, what do you like? Like, well, I don't want to be like anything. I'm not going to go, like, I'm not trying to like fist fight other tools. I am the tool that wraps your tool. And that's a huge, like, hard sell is when you're going to
hug all the tools.
And now keys. It's hard when you're like, being a startup and you're trying to find product market fit. It's hard to be the sell when you're like, oh, and you have to replace that tool. And there's that one guy, that one Princey Eng who's like, I love that tool. I'll guard that tool with my life. So instead of trying to get the Princey Eng to be like, he has to throw out his favorite tool ever. I don't care what tool you have. You can make your own tool. Tesla makes a lot of their own tools in-house. So I know this because Porter. And so it's like, oh, well, you can make your own tools. And then Porter just wraps it. And you can do whatever you want because it's really easy.
So are you the sole maintainer of Porter?
I, luckily, am not. So recently, I stepped down as maintainer, which means I basically don't run community meetings, but I still get all the emails and I watch it on GitHub all the time, which is super healthy. But we have other maintainers that have picked up the slack. I've been kind of waiting for Porter to get to like a healthier spot where I'm able to like kind of step back and see if it just kind of runs itself or what does it want to do as a tool. But for the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been running Porter. And it's been a wild ride.
What motivates you to do that in addition to your regular job?
Yeah, well, I like the project, but a lot of it was, I don't want to say guilt. there is a sense of ownership to run that project. So basically, seeing my team lead pass away, I knew that I wanted to keep her dream alive. I don't want to call it guilt. I don't know what you'd call it, but like, it's like a torch. The torch was passed to me, unbeknownst to all of us. And so I didn't want it to kind of like teeter and falter.
You wanted to honor her efforts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, I was the person who chose to step up to that plate, sure. And that is what I've been doing. And now that we have like different people from different companies who are maintainers of Porter, I'm able to take a step back and be like, okay, like I also might not be the right person for the job, being like so emotionally involved in like keeping this project alive. Let's see what other people do with it.
And how has it been letting go?
Good. It's been good in a way that I don't know how to explain this. I've been talking to my maintainers, talking about to the maintainers of Porter about this. I was like, I was burnt out and I would get the Porter emails and I'd be like, ugh, like another Dependabot update. I can't wait to see who CVE'd today. And now I get the emails and I'm like, oh, let me go see what's going on. Let me go and maybe I can just approve that really quick. Okay. Like it's re-energizing now that there's not pressure, because there was always pressure as like the lead maintainer. I need to be better. I need to be more present. I need to be doing more. And then that pressure would like spiral into the zone of not doing anything but spiraling in pressure. Now that the pressure's off, I'm like, what's up? Like I want to be a part of the community again.
Like as long as I'm here because I choose to be here, not because I have to be here, then I like being here. I relate to that. Yeah.
That's well said. well, I have one last question, and I think it's probably for both of you, though. I think Whitney is like, her Venn diagram on this is like maybe a fourth to a third of the circle overlapping of the topic. We'll see. Now, I was watching one of your presentations. Maybe you'll remember it because at one point you've got like a cartoon and you see like a cat butt up in the upper left, and you got those little figures. And then where you work now at Adira, is that how you say it?
We say Adira.
Adara. Oh, yes. There you go. I was never good at figuring out how to say things. But Adara, you've got that. My son can say it. Oxawaddle.
Yeah,
like the mascot.
Mm-hmm.
And the style that it's drawn in is similar to your cat butt presentation. Huh. And like I noticed this style around, and I don't know what to call it. So that's kind of the question is like, what is that style? Because it's not like anime, right? And it's not like live drawing, like it's not like Marvel cartoons. Like there's something about it that is slightly different, but there is definitely a category of like online tech community that has that style of drawing things, right? With kind of like, it's very like, Whitney's stuff has this like hand drawn feel to it, so it's a little jaggedy here and there, right? But this style, very precise, like it's very crisp, like kind of vectorized,
it's kind of shiny, right? Yeah,
and it's a little shiny. It's like flat. It has thick outlines on the outside, and it's always cute as fuck, right? It like even it's maybe the beginning is like the GitHub thing, whatever that thing is. That octopus is kind of like the first time maybe this type of style existed. I don't know, but is there a name for what this aesthetic is? What's going on with it? Because it's very deliberately chosen by people, or maybe not deliberately. I don't know.
Didn't choose that at all. Octocat, by the way.
Octocat is the GitHub.
There you go. Yeah. What is the Octocat style?
Phippy and Friends has that style. Phippy is like the Kubernetes one. Yeah.
See, that would be as it turns out there's this one person.
Yes. Phippy and Friends is the same vibe. So who's it? Fermion. This guy named, what is his name? Oh, it's not Radu. It's they have a designer there. I know his name and it's gone. It's out of my brain. He is the person who started PorterCat. So the OG PorterCat that is like more muted in colors, that is his style. The cat butt, if you saw PorterCat like with the cat butt, I just paid someone on Fiverr to do that. I was like, I don't know. So maybe and it was like I'll make you Twitch emotes person. So maybe we're all just going to the same person on Fiverr trying to get Twitch emotes, and giving her a lot of business, I hope.
Yeah. So there's basically 2 or 3 people who are making these, whatever the style is that we need to have a name for.
And more generally speaking, there are quite a few folks like me who draw their slides and do hand drawing and like make kind of art and visual stuff a part of their storytelling and technical presentations.
Totally. Yeah. And I think in your area, that's a whole other aesthetic of like the handcrafted, hand-drawn slides that are unique, like bespoke type of thing. And anyways, I don't know. Okay, well, I'll continue looking around for what this thing is.
There is, even in my shorter time in tech, there is more and more just cute stuff that's like part of branding. I'm here for it.
When one of my first like KubeCon talks, one of my takeaways was like the cuter the logo, the more you'll get adopted. And I was like, and I was right. And that's like KubeCon 2018. So I called it.
Visionary.
Well, you've mentioned many things you work on, that you have worked on and don't work on anymore and stuff you do. But if you were going to send people to one place to like find out more about all your stuff or yourself, where would you send them? Preferably on the internet, not like this one 7-Eleven has the best pizza.
You need to go to Austin, Texas, 2244. No, if you want to find out more about me or just like my vibe, because like go to my employer, we're a startup, adara.dev, and come hang out with us. But if you want to find out more about me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the CEO of the internet. So as much as I am a staff engineer at Adara, I am the CEO of the internet. So if you want to find out about what it's like to run the internet, you can come find me.
Yeah, I saw you've held that job for some 47, 48 years.
I'm doing a lot of work.
Steady employment.
Well, if I was a VC and I was investing on vibes alone, I'd totally invest in you, Sarah.
Yeah, at least foot the bill for the pizza. I think that would work out. Well, speaking of footing the bill for the pizza, you've listened to another software-defined interviews. This is episode, excitingly enough, 100. So if you want to see a link, I probably won't remember to put these cute pictures of cats in and things like that, but a link to things we talked about, and also not links to things we talked about. You could go to softwaredefinedinterviews.com/100 and join our Slack channel and all the other exciting things you would expect. But thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.